What if the moment that breaks most people is the same moment that builds you? Not because you are different, but because you think differently. Most people do not fail because life is too hard. They fail because their mindset is not prepared. They expect things to go smoothly. They expect effort to always lead to results. They expect people to act fairly. And when reality does not match those expectations, they become frustrated, overwhelmed, disappointed. Not because the situation is impossible, but because their mind was not ready for it. This is where mental strength is built. Not in comfort. Not in easy moments. But in how you respond when things do not go your way. Because difficulty is not optional. It is guaranteed. Challenges will come. Delays will happen. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. And if your mindset is fragile, these moments will break you. But if your mindset is trained, they will build you. This is what Stoicism teaches. Thinkers like Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. You cannot control what happens, but you can control how you respond. And that response determines your strength. Not once, but repeatedly. Over time. Because strength is not a single decision. It is a pattern. Built through repetition. Through awareness. Through discipline. And once you understand this, everything changes. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, how do I respond to this? That shift is where control begins. And where weakness starts to disappear. If you are ready to build that mindset, subscribe to this channel to get more of this. Because an unbreakable mind is not something you wish for. It is something you build. 1. Accept that life is hard. Most frustration does not come from reality. It comes from expectation. You expect things to be easier. You expect results to come faster. You expect people to act a certain way. And when those expectations are not met, you feel resistance, stress, disappointment. But the problem is not the situation. It is the expectation. Because life was never designed to be consistently easy. It is unpredictable, uncertain, sometimes unfair. And once you accept this, you stop being surprised by difficulty. You stop reacting emotionally to what is normal. Because challenges are normal. Setbacks are normal. Discomfort is normal. And when you see them this way, they lose their power. They no longer feel like interruptions. They feel like part of the process. This changes how you respond. Because instead of resisting, you prepare. You expect challenges. And because you expect them, you handle them better. You remain calmer. More focused. More stable. This is what creates resilience. Not avoiding difficulty, but accepting it. Understanding it. Working through it. Because when your expectations match reality, your reactions become controlled. You are not shocked. You are ready. And readiness is what makes your mindset stronger. 2. Control your reactions. Everything begins with a reaction. Something happens. And instantly, you feel something. Anger. Frustration. Fear. And most people react immediately. They speak without thinking. They act without control. They respond based on emotion. And in that moment, it feels natural. It feels justified. But later, they realize they could have responded differently. Because reactions are temporary. But consequences are lasting. The Stoic mindset creates a gap between what happens and how you respond. A small space where you pause, where you observe, where you think. And in that space, you choose. Instead of reacting automatically, you respond intentionally. This changes everything. Because you are no longer controlled by emotion. You are guided by awareness. You feel, but you do not act immediately. You think before you respond. And that thought creates better outcomes. Because your actions are aligned with your goals, not your emotions. Over time, this becomes a habit. You naturally pause. You naturally think. You naturally respond. And that habit creates control. Because your behavior is no longer impulsive. It is intentional. And intentional action is what creates strength. If you want to stay calm under pressure, this is where it begins. 3. Focus only on what you can control. Most stress comes from one mistake. Trying to control what is not yours. You try to control outcomes. You try to control people. You try to control situations. And when things do not go your way, you feel frustrated, powerless, overwhelmed. Because deep down, you know you cannot control them. But you still try. And that creates tension. Because your effort is directed at something unstable, something unpredictable, something outside your influence. The Stoic mindset simplifies everything. You separate what you can control from what you cannot. Your actions, your thoughts, your responses. These are yours. Everything else is not. And once you make this distinction, your energy shifts. You stop wasting effort on what cannot be controlled and start focusing on what can. This creates clarity. Because your mind is no longer scattered. It is directed. You are not thinking about outcomes. You are thinking about actions. You are not worrying about people. You are improving yourself. You are not reacting to situations. You are choosing your response. And that focus creates calm. Because uncertainty is reduced. You are not trying to manage everything. You are managing yourself. And that is enough. Because your responses shape your results. Not external factors alone. Over time, this becomes a habit. You naturally redirect your attention away from what you cannot control and toward what you can. And that habit creates stability. Because your state is no longer dependent on unpredictable things. It is grounded in your actions, your discipline, your control. And that is what makes your mindset stronger. Because you are no longer reacting. You are directing. And direction creates power. If you want less stress and more clarity, this is the shift you must make. Subscribe to this channel to get more of this. 4. Build discipline through small actions. Most people think strength comes from big moments, major decisions, life-changing events. But that is not where strength is built. It is built in small actions. Repeated daily. Quietly. Consistently. The way you wake up. The way you work. The way you respond. The way you follow through. These small decisions seem insignificant. But over time, they create patterns. And those patterns become your identity. If you act only when you feel motivated, your behavior becomes inconsistent. Because motivation changes. It comes and goes. But discipline remains. Discipline is acting. Even when you do not feel like it. Even when it is difficult. Even when it is inconvenient. And every time you do this, you strengthen something inside you. Self-control. Because you are proving that your actions are not controlled by your feelings. They are controlled by your decisions. This builds confidence. Not loud confidence, but quiet certainty. Because you know you can rely on yourself. You know you will follow through. You know you will act, even when it is not easy. And that knowing creates stability. Because your behavior is no longer unpredictable. It is consistent. You do not wait. You do not hesitate. You act based on commitment, not emotion. Over time, these small actions create something powerful. Momentum. Because consistency compounds. Each action builds on the last. Each decision strengthens the next. And before you realize it, you have built discipline. Not through intensity, but through repetition. And that discipline is what creates an unbreakable mindset. Because you are no longer dependent on how you feel. You are guided by what you do. And what you do consistently defines who you become. If you want real discipline that lasts, this is where it starts. 5. Strengthen your mind through adversity. Most people see difficulty as something to avoid, something to escape, something to resist. Because discomfort feels wrong. It feels like something is going off track. But in reality, difficulty is not the problem. It is the process. Every challenge, every setback, every failure carries something valuable. An opportunity to build strength, to develop resilience, to understand yourself. But most people miss this because they focus on the discomfort, not the lesson. They try to get away from it instead of growing through it. And because of that, they remain fragile, unprepared, easily affected. The Stoic mindset changes this completely. You stop seeing adversity as an obstacle and start seeing it as training. Training for your mind. Training for your reactions. Training for your discipline. Because every difficult moment gives you a choice to react or to respond, to avoid or to endure, to break or to build. And each time you choose to endure, to stay calm, to stay focused, you strengthen your mindset. Because you are proving something to yourself. That you can handle pressure. That you can face discomfort. That you can continue. Even when it is not easy. This creates confidence. Not based on success, but based on experience. You have faced difficulty. And you did not break. You have endured discomfort. And you continued. And that experience builds resilience. Because you become familiar with challenges. You are no longer surprised by difficulty. You expect it. And because you expect it, you handle it better. You remain calmer, more stable, more controlled. This is what makes your mindset stronger. Not avoiding difficulty, but facing it, learning from it, growing through it. Because every challenge is shaping you, whether you realize it or not. The question is, are you letting it weaken you or strengthen you? Because that choice Defines your mindset. If you want to become mentally stronger, do not avoid difficulty. Learn from it. 6. Control your thoughts. Your thoughts are constant. They never stop. They move quickly. From one idea to another. And most of the time, you are not controlling them. You are following them. Every thought feels real. Every idea feels important. Every worry feels urgent. And because of that, you become overwhelmed. Not by reality, but by your perception of it. This is where overthinking begins. You replay situations. You imagine outcomes. You create scenarios that may never happen. And then, you react to those thoughts as if they are real. This creates stress, anxiety, confusion. Because your mind is not focused. It is scattered, pulled in different directions by every thought that appears. The Stoic mindset changes this. You stop identifying with every thought and start observing them. You recognize something important. Not every thought deserves attention. Not every thought is true. Not every thought is useful. And once you understand this, you begin to filter. You decide which thoughts to focus on and which ones to let go. This creates clarity. Because your mind is no longer crowded. It is directed, intentional, controlled. Instead of reacting to every thought, you guide your attention toward what matters, toward what is real, toward what you can control. This reduces overthinking. Because you are no longer feeding unnecessary thoughts. You are not giving them attention. And attention is what gives thoughts power. Without it, they fade. They lose intensity. They disappear. Over time, this becomes natural. You notice thoughts without reacting to them. You observe without becoming overwhelmed. And that creates calm. Because your mind is no longer chaotic. It is stable, focused, controlled. And that control is what creates an unbreakable mindset. Because your thoughts no longer control you. You control them. If you've stayed through this, then you already understand something powerful. An unbreakable mindset is not something you are born with. It is something you build through daily choices, through repeated actions, through controlled responses. You have seen the principles. Accept that life is hard. Control your reactions. Focus on what you can control. Build discipline. Learn from adversity. Control your thoughts. These are not separate ideas. They are connected. Each one strengthens the other. Each one builds control. Each one creates stability. And together, they form something powerful. A mindset that does not break under pressure. That does not collapse under stress. That remains steady. No matter what happens. This is what makes you different. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger. You respond differently. You think differently. You act differently. And that difference changes everything. Because your mindset shapes your life. Not once, but continuously. So do not try to change everything at once. Start small. Control one reaction. Question one thought. Follow through on one action. And repeat. Because repetition creates change. And change creates strength. And strength creates an unbreakable mind. If this changed the way you think, Subscribe to this channel to get more of this. Because mental strength is not found. It is built.